There's an interesting little infographic floating around the interwebs right now from Samba TV comparing the launches of the Rings of Power against House of the Dragon. I never actually saw these two launches as competing in any way, shape, or form. In fact, television shows don't really compete anymore, do they? You can watch anything you want on demand, and there's like no real reason that if you want to watch both, that you couldn't watch both. But nonetheless, the industry is trying to push forward this comparison between the two. And there's actually a massive difference in viewership. There's a couple of things you have to understand about Samba TV. Samba TV is like this service that gives us best guess estimates in terms of total viewership for streaming services. Because part of streaming services, we now don't really know anything about ratings. We know what they told us, but they probably make it up, or they always say things like, this was the most popular show in its time period while there was a full moon in history. Take that, haters. We don't really know what kind of viewership shows like Miss Marvel got, even though they continue to tell us it was a smash hit that everyone wanted. And we're seeing that with Amazon's Lord of the Rings, which they claim 25 million people watched. Entirely possible. Also, understand that Samba TV like devices aren't in every home, so these aren't representative of total number of viewers, but they are representative of, given the Samba sample size, how many people watched each individual show. So I've seen a lot of people misinterpreting this, saying like, oh, Lord of the Rings lied about their viewership. No. But this is a comparison. And quite frankly, it's pretty embarrassing for Rings of Power. I keep like feeling like I need to give House of the Dragon some sort of chance, but like the way Game of Thrones ended, I feel so like jilted from that. You see, this demand for Game of Thrones content drove more than half of all viewers to watch the House of the Dragon premiere. This is Samba viewers, right? So this is like the best we get for ratings. Premiere with the first 6 hours of its initial L plus 3 day release window. That's launch plus 3 days, I'm assuming. Buzz from the premiere helped boost overall viewership to 4.8 million households in just the first few days. Pretty interesting, right? And you know, I don't know why more people don't follow Samba, because it's like all we know in terms of, you know, that's big number for House of the Dragon, more than twice that of its competition. You see, Warner Brothers Discovery reported that 25 million United States households watched the House of the Dragon premiere. No, in the first week, and the even larger audience for the second episode. No, what? No, that's, you just don't understand the numbers. Okay, so you have to understand the numbers. So then we have Samba TV also reporting 1.8 million U.S. households watched the debut episode of Lord of the Rings Prime during its first 4 days. So launch plus 3 is probably the same as 4. Available on stream, scoring the largest Prime Video premiere of the year. But when you compare that to 4.8 million, that's less than half. House of Dragons did absolutely much better, but you have to understand what Samba TV is. If you look at it, you know, Samba TV is a television technology company that offers real-time insights and audience analytics. It was founded back in 2008 by early employees of BitTorrent, including Samba TV's current CEO. It's a technology that uses new tools to identify what people are watching on their internet-connected sets that ties in information from the sites they visit on their phones and other behaviors. So it's, you know, it's interesting. You know, it's directional. They say our mission is to create data at the heart of TV, powering more scientific approach to advertising and better viewing experience. So people buy their data, and you get to know exactly who is watching what, because these streaming services aren't actually providing anything. So if you look at like their, you know, agency solutions, they can reach the unreachables with omni-screen impact. They have all sorts of data information on who's watching what, understanding who, what the customers are so you can buy appropriate ads. But this is probably pretty rough given, 3-4 times the interest in House of the Dragon. But we know that total viewership is 25 million. So this is just based on Samba TVs and also in United States households. So perhaps, House of the Dragon was more popular in the United States and less popular on the international stage. It's difficult to know, but it's interesting to watch. Where you see Looper right, the Rings of Power viewership numbers confirm what we suspected about Amazon Prime's historic bet. Thursday, Amazon saw Lord of the Rings. By the way, we've got a new episode this Thursday, so it'll be interesting. They made a 5-season commitment to create the ambitious show at a cost of $1 billion with a sizable cast that includes the likes of nobody that anybody knows, not to mention incredibly high expectations for fans everywhere. The show has been getting a lot of buzz, so it goes without saying it's a huge risk for Amazon. Thankfully, the hard work seems to be paying off. Rings of Power pulled in Amazon's biggest premiere numbers ever. According to recent reports by Deadline, it pulled in 25 million viewers in its first day from over 240 countries. So when we look at US viewership, I think that's, what Samba's breaking down here. You've got 240 countries tuned in for Lord of the Rings. So I'm not sure House of the Dragon had that kind of global reach, possibly. The launch of the first 2 episodes of the series get released on the streamer. This makes the show rank as the highest premiere on Amazon in history. That's not really a big feat. While it's difficult to compare the numbers of the Rings of Power to other Prime shows, because they typically don't release numbers for things like The Boys or Reacher, it's safe to assume that with the esteem of the franchise at hand, the success of the show is no exaggeration. Except, is it? It is only a success if they're selling Prime memberships, right? It's no good to them just to exist because they're not making any money. They need to get $1 billion in new signups to Amazon Prime just to break even. And that seems extraordinarily unlikely. But you have the outrage media. Here's from, Noon Today, still writing their articles. Conservatives are melting down over non-white elves of Rings of Power. Tolkien is turning in his grave, tweeted a sad, rich Elon Musk. Well, he didn't say anything about elves of color. Amazon's Prime's Rings of Power, a prequel we all know. On Sunday, CNN ran an op-ed titled When Wokeness Comes to Middle-earth, Why Some Say Diverse Casting Ruins the Lord of the Rings series. Wokeness is, of course, used synonymously with Black and Asian people. No, it isn't. Despite receiving a solid critics rating of 84%, that's not really that solid. As of Tuesday, Rings of Power audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes stands at 38%, thanks to review brigading. Amazon went so far as to pause the audience rating on its platform for 72 hours on Saturday to try and combat similar review brigading. I assure you that people are going to be fine to wait. I'm almost certain. Social media posts blasting the show for its inclusivity is endless. Again, that's not what this is. This is Jezebel. It's a feminist website, literally. White Owls, the one tweet and comparing the show to Black Panther being cast as a white man will probably stay with me the longest. Yes, these are obviously the same things. A superhero whose identity is rooted in representing a marginalized racial group being cast as a white actor is exactly equivalent to people of color being permitted to fictionally exist in a fantasy world that never existed in the first place. Yes, it actually is exactly the same, because Wakanda, I know this is probably crazy, doesn't actually exist either. I mean, you just see, Tolkien is turning his grave. Cool, just wait till Mr. Musk hears about the fictional women have been written for years, existing solely as semi-sentient pairs of bobs in the fantasy and superhero genres until very recently, only for pretty much every female or non-white superhero to be ruthlessly review brigaded. Again, dead wrong. I mean, how long ago was Ripley out there? Or Sarah Connor? Or even... Jamie Lee Curtis in the Michael Myers Halloween movies. video games, Metroid, Tomb Raider. You know, there's endless female protagonist video games and movies that do not receive negative review brigading. But it's like these media weirdos always ignore that. The same kind of people who, you know, right, this Elon Musk gets dragged for complaining about Rings of Power for showcasing strong women. Did he? His tweet had almost 300,000 likes. It's like you live in a fantasy world where he got ratioed or something. He absolutely did not. I mean, I don't even understand. If we look at this here, token, let's actually look at the tweet. Let's see him getting dragged for it. 270,000 likes. His follow-up, almost every male character is a coward, 120,000 likes. Absolutely no ratios, no nothing. What are you talking about? Like where is the getting dragged part? But that's the mainstream media. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you drop a like on it, and we'll talk to you again real soon.